Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have this opportunity to join you at this official closing session of a very important two-day National Policy Summit under the theme, The Industrial Transformation of Ghana, which is aimed at interacting with stakeholders on the new agenda on trade and industry. I would like to congratulate the Honorable Minister of Trade and his capable team for putting together and delivering this National Policy Summit. I think you will all agree with me that they've done an excellent job. It is clearly a very, very capable team. And we have very high expectations of them as a country because they have a very ambitious agenda to match the ambitious agenda of the president. I am reliably informed that the participation in the two-day program has been exceptionally encouraging, very interactive, and not surprisingly productive. I'm particularly impressed by the list of private sector participants who have taken the time out of their busy schedules to be part of this conversation. A policy summit is at its core an ideas summit. And we need smart, bold, and innovative ideas to move this country forward to where all of us want to be, which is a prosperous Ghana, creating prosperity and opportunities for all. Your willingness to be part of this summit demonstrates your confidence in our transformational agenda as an important vehicle to move this country forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the two-day deliberations have been interactive, the best way to share ideas. And I believe that the conclusions reached have emerged out of consensus building. This is another indication of the approach that the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo intends to follow in our conversations with the private sector, to open up and provide spaces for dialogue, to be a listening facilitator, and determined to use bottom-up approaches to policy formulation and decision-making. We know that we don't have all the ideas. We don't have all the solutions. This is why we have to constantly dialogue, constantly interact. And even at the level of the economic management team, with all these powerful members sitting around the team, we regularly call in the private sector to dialogue on policies, to get their views before we actually take certain decisions. This is the best way to pursue our 10-point industrial development agenda captured under the following initiatives: one district, one factory, establishment of industrial parks, strategic anchor industries, the stimulus package, enhancement of domestic trade, export diversification, SME development, industrial subcontracting and partnership, business regulatory reforms, and regular private-public sector dialogue. On trade, ladies and gentlemen, industrial agenda, our trade and industrial agenda should be seen as part of a continental agenda. Ghana would soon enjoy the privileges under the Continental Free Trade Agreement. This will bring into fruition a resolution passed at the 18th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union held in Addis Ababa in January 2012, with the objective to create a single continental market for goods and services with free movement of business persons and investments. Objective also to expand intra-African trade through better harmonization and coordination of trade liberalization and facilitation regimes, and to resolve challenges of multiple and overlapping memberships in regional economic groupings. Also to enhance competitiveness at the industry and enterprise level by taking advantage of the opportunities of economies of scale, access to continental markets, and better reallocation of our resources across the continent. The Ministry of Trade and Industry would in the coming months engage stakeholders and sensitize the business community on this new continental free trade agreement. We need your inputs. We want to encourage you to expand your perspectives on the emerging Africa. We as government will continue to engage in dialogue. In the end, it is your bold entrepreneurial skills and your competitiveness that will determine how far and how much Ghana can take advantage of the opportunities of continental free trade. On AGOA, ladies and gentlemen, Ghana fully participated in the 16th Africa Growth and Opportunity Act AGOA Forum held in Lomé from 7th to the 10th of August 2017 under the theme United States and Africa Partnering for Prosperity Through Trade. AGOA is a strategic framework through which Ghana seeks to expand bilateral trade and investment with the United States, and it provides a duty-free and quota-free access to the U.S. market. The scheme was renewed in 2015 for another 10 years, up to 2025. And we have 8 more years to make effective use of this preferential market access schemes. We can only do this if government and the private sector work together, with the government only as a facilitator. And I know yesterday the president was at Dignity, which best is showing the way, and we want to see more of such. Again, as with the Continental Free Trade Agreement, government will work with the private sector to provide targeted interventions to enable Ghana tap into the opportunities provided under the AGOA initiatives. On the Ghana International Trade Commission Act, ladies and gentlemen, the Ghana International Trade Commission, GITC, would provide for the regulation of the international trade of Ghana in conformity with the rules and regulations of the World Trade System. The Commission would look into complaints brought forward by the private sector in matters such as subsidies of imported products by foreign governments, dumping of imported products into the domestic market, tariff adjustments, settlement of disputes between importers and the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, and any other measure which affects fair trade. Government would, in the coming days, officially inaugurate the Commission to deal with unfair trade issues and enhance the competitiveness of the local private sector, and contribute in the making of 10 key industrial transformation agenda a reality. So I think a lot of people have been waiting for the inauguration of the GITC, and I think in the next few days it will become a reality, inshallah. Looking at the mid-year budget, provisional estimates show that Ghana's trade account recorded a surplus of some $1.4 billion for the first half of 2017, largely because of the significant increase in export earnings combined with lower imports. This compares to an almost equivalent deficit of $1.4 billion for the same period in 2016. So a deficit 1.4, now a surplus of 1.4, so you've made a move of about 2.8. It's a major, major feat. It is our hope that there will be greater improvements in the trade balance as we implement a strategy to stimulate industry and increase export competitiveness. These will, of course, depend on industry productivity, which in turn depends, among other things, on how fast and how deep we incorporate technology in the way we produce goods and services in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, to stimulate economic activities and to demonstrate our commitment to stimulate industry and for the private sector as a whole, the Minister of Finance in the 2017 budget introduced a number of bold initiatives. In line with the government's view that we cannot tax our way to grow the economy, we have successfully reviewed or abolished the following. We abolished the 1% special import levy on raw materials and machinery. We abolished the 17.5% VAT on financial services, abolished the 17.5% VAT on airline tickets, abolished the excise duty on petroleum to reduce the excess burden on final consumers, reduced the special petroleum tax from 17.5% to 15%. We abolished the 5% VAT flat rate on the real estate sector. We abolished the import duty on spare parts, and we exempted from tax the gains from the realization of securities listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. These are very bold initiatives for any government to take. In this context, notwithstanding that we are reducing the tax burden on consumers and businesses alike, we are very focused on making sure the macroeconomy is stable, and we continue with the process of fiscal consolidation. We got off the wagon as far as the fiscal deficit is concerned, but we are coming back, bringing the fiscal deficit back from 9.4% in 2016 to a projected 6.3% this year, and we are going to pass a law, and this is major. We're going to pass a law by amending the Public Financial Management Act to limit the fiscal deficit from 2018 going forward to a maximum of the window between 3 and 5% of the GDP. That is the way forward. We've never done this in Ghana, but this demonstrates that the government is very, very committed to keeping fiscal discipline, so that every investor, internal or external, every player in our economy will know that going forward from 2018, Ghana's fiscal deficit will always be between the range of 3 and 5% of GDP. We are also, in this context, going to bring our debts back to more sustainable levels. We are going to reduce the debt to GDP ratios over time. It doesn't mean, and a lot of people misunderstand when we say that we are going to be responsible. It doesn't mean we will not borrow money. It only means that we are going to borrow responsibly and not recklessly. No government can say they won't borrow money. That is ridiculous. But you have to borrow responsibly and not recklessly. And that is the way we are going to manage this economy. We are also working very hard to remove bottlenecks in all aspects of doing business. These are, among other initiatives, demonstrate government's readiness to do its part if we are going to create and sustain the environment you need to expand opportunities and create jobs for a prosperous Ghana. We can do more, but without your tangible responsiveness we can do more, but not without your tangible responsiveness to grow and expand. Let me talk a little bit about the paperless ports. On May 17th this year, we organized a conference on how to improve port operations and management efficiency in Ghana. We brought together a number of stakeholders, including the best port operators in the world from Antwerp, Dubai, and Singapore. We learned that our ports have lagged behind in all areas of port operations. And port operations themselves have become bottlenecks for our competitiveness. Our aim is to change the face of operations at the ports so that we can meet international standards and improve our trade competitiveness whilst making most of our ports making the most of our ports as national assets. We will not tolerate the inexplicable charges, delays, lack of transparency, and overall complexity in the operations at the ports. We are moving from a system of applying substandard and unnecessary complex procedures at the ports to a system which meets international standards and is in conformity with trade facilitation agreements. So we are moving from a paper-based system largely at the Tema port to a largely paperless system starting on September 1st, 2017. We will seek your cooperation in the implementation of 3 key measures that were announced a few months ago. We want to achieve mandatory, less intrusive joint inspection at the ports, achieve paperless processing of all relevant port documents, and abolish all internal customs barriers on Ghana's highways from September 1st, 2017. The pilot for the paperless should begin at the end of this week so that we see what sort of gremlins are in the system that we can deal with. So we will begin the pilot, and I must say that the stakeholders are cooperating, the shippers, the clearing agents, the customs, GCNet, West Blue, the Food and Drugs Administration, Ghana Standards Authority, GPHA, the GRA, all of the stakeholders and many more are cooperating in this process. It's something that we are doing for Ghana. We are not doing it for any individual stakeholder. We are doing it for ourselves. And it's so good to see that we are getting so much cooperation. In addition to these reforms, we will be implementing a risk engine and also which would incorporate price data of all the goods that are being imported into Ghana so that you cannot come and declare something that is worth $100 as $20. So there's a big change coming at the ports. And we will have this robust risk engine in place. And definitely, inshallah, by the end of this year, we are counting that it shouldn't really take you more than 4 hours to clear your container at the port. So we are definitely setting high ambitions, but it's based on the work that we are doing and going to do. You've seen some major reforms in the business environment that are taking place, from registering the businesses to getting permits and so on. There's so much reform going on in the business environment. Reforms are coming in place to put in place a national digital address system before the end of this year. We want to begin the national ID project before the end of this year and definitely finish it by the end of next year. We want to make sure there is mobile interoperability by November this year. So the reforms are major. And this is what is going to transform this economy and therefore give, impetus to the trade of this country, because the trade is based on an infrastructure of policies and systems that will make it us more competitive. But I'm very, very excited about the way forward. I'm very, very excited about the program that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has laid out, the vision that he has laid out for this country. And I see that if we work together, Ghana is going to go places. And when Ghana goes places, we are going to create jobs. We are going to create jobs. So we are not intimidated. We are ambitious, yes, in the reform agenda, but we know Ghanaians have the capability to implement all these reforms. We just not really done it. But this time around, I think by the grace of God and with the help of the vision of the president, we are going to do it this time around. I would like to also commend the collaborative efforts of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Ministry of Information in the preparation and running of this event. Special commendation also goes to the members of the Planning Committee for this splendid organization. I wish to thank you all for your participation. It's my singular honor to officially close the 2017 National Policy Summit on Trade and Industry. May God bless you all, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you very much.